Hello. My goodness, you guys. I am so sorry to be so late. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ellen Lewis from Crazy for You. And tonight we are going to be talking about a new yarn called Ohajiki from Noro. And I wanted to take just a minute to apologize for being so late. I have a motto in the shop for my team, for my customers, for myself, for everybody, and it is family first. So, my husband was scheduled to have a tiny little uh, basal cell removed from the bridge of his nose. It was tiny, tiny. We'd even notice it for like the longest time. It was like the head of a pin. And he went in and they said, yeah, they did a biopsy and they scheduled him to have it taken off. We were thinking no big deal. Turns out that, and this is your public service announcement for tonight, that little tiny head of a pin size dark area was not it. There was a whole section that looked like scar tissue from something. I guess I assumed it was an old war wound, but anyway, that was the cancer. So what we thought was going to be that head of a pin size thing that just got scraped off turned out to be a, quarter sized deep thing with kind of reconstructive surgery and the whole thing going on. Anyway, it was 6 hours because the surgery is amazing. They take a little bit and they check it and they take a little bit more and they check it. Anyway, so a long story short, I believe family first. So thank you guys for understanding and being patient while I look after my sweet, sweet husband who always looks after me. So yay. Susie says something similar happened to a friend. Yes, exactly. I mean, you just have to be so, so careful. So anyway, again, thank you for being patient. Give me a minute to kind of catch my breath. But the good news is I had 6 hours to swatch on this yarn, and I just really, really enjoyed working with it. And I can't wait to share it with you because I think you're really, really going to like it. Um, I talked a little bit about the way Noro does color in the newsletter this week, if you saw that. And I think Ohajiki is a great example of one of the ways Noro does color in a more subtle way than we typically think of Noro colors. When we think Noro colors, we immediately go to Kurion or Ito with the very bright, very intense, very kind of often high contrast color shifts. And Ohajiki is an example of Noro that doesn't have that kind of color. So it has color and it has a lot of color and different colors, as I will show you, but it's a colorful yarn that is perfect for any kind of a pattern that you want your stitches to kind of be showcased a little bit. So I'm excited to share that with you. So yes, anyway, thank you guys. I just love you so much. I really, really do. It's just amazing. So let me start by sharing with you my little swatch here. Okay. So this is Ohajiki. This is the swatch that I did. And as I always do, I started with a very, very, very small needle. So the ball band on this gives a gauge of 18 to 20 stitches on a US 6 to 8. So naturally, I had to start really tiny down here on like 3, just to sort of see how that was going to go. And let me tell you, it wasn't that much fun knitting with this at this gauge. It was super tight and I didn't love it. But the fabric is very even. If you needed a cotton to be sort of structured, this would definitely do it. But you can see that it curls quite a bit and it is sort of stiff at this gauge. And I went up 3, 4, 5. It's nice. It's nice at 4. It's very nice at 5, surprisingly enough. So very pretty on a 5 needle. And I didn't have a chance to actually measure the gauge on this. So let's just take a quick look and see what we've got here. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Let me put my ruler down here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So this is on a 5. This is kind of solidly DK, which is a really nice fabric. So, and this has not been blocked. So remember that Noro tends to bloom when you block it. So it would bloom a little bit. So even up here, kind of on, this was on the 5 and I got 22. This is on a 6. I think I'm probably closer to 21. But I mentioned this gauge right here at the 22/23 because that's the gauge for my new favorite summer sweater, Poppy Tea. And it would be very nice at that gauge. This would make a beautiful summer sweater. So here we are on a 7, which is probably going to look something like a 21, 2, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So on a 7, I got 19 stitches over 4 inches. And I think that's a nice gauge. Now here on an 8 unblocked, you can see that it's sort of open, right? Really kind of open. And when I saw this, I thought, ooh, what about a dando? You know, you could do a beautiful dando garment at this gauge. You'd still want to block it a little bit open, but wouldn't that be pretty? I think that would be just gorgeous. So, but for me on an 8 at like 18, 17, 18, it does fall apart a little bit. So I think, you know, you have to take the Noro gauge with a grain of salt. And whatever the question is, the answer is always you're going to have to swatch it and see. So, yeah. And again, I think that this would bloom after a nice steam block and be a fabric that's very wearable, but it definitely has more drape than you might want for some fabrics. But there you go. And just in terms of like a little bit of technical detail on here, the blend is 50% cotton, 20% silk, 15% wool, and 15% viscose. So half cotton and almost half silk and viscose. So it has a beautiful sheen. Can you see how pretty? It really does have a lot of luster to it. And I think you can see too how the colors shift. So definitely this ball that I'm knitting from reads kind of dark teal or dark aqua, but you can see with that little bit of purple and then this acid green in there, you can see how the colors shift. The contrasting colors are fairly minimal. This is a narrow piece of fabric, and I don't have a really wide swath of that contrast color. It's mainly the main color. You know, here's a little bit of pink in here, a little bit of white, you know, a little bit of that green coming in. And then you can see we're starting to get, you know, really deep into that sort of acid green. So I love the color play on this. I love the way that they are making more of a solid, but you know, not a complete solid. You know, they're staying true to this idea of multiple colors and interest. And I think this is a yarn that really lends itself to something that has some lace work in it. I think that would be absolutely gorgeous. in this yarn. So let's get to the colors. Okay. Um, Beautiful, right? So the color that these are not in any particular order. The color that I'm working with is color 2, and that is this sort of dark turquoise. I think it's beautiful, and it does have that little bit of purple in there, and the acid green, and kind of the sort of cool green. This makes a beautiful colorway, right? So I think that's lovely. Um, this one is the color that I think is the most different of all of them. This is color 12, and this is the color that is in the garment featured on the cover of the magazine. And when I look at this, I sort of feel like it's frosted. You know, it has that little bit of white that runs through it and is sort of marled in there. See that little bit of marling in there? And it, like I said, it definitely looks like the whole thing's been covered a little bit with powdered sugar. Doesn't that sound yummy? You know? Um, but it's got that little bit of blue, it's got a little bit of orange, it's got a little bit of that gold yellow, a little bit of the purple. So kind of all the colors in the palette are included in color 12. And because it's the covered design, it's been super popular. So I've had to reorder that. And we do have it in stock. So for all you green girls, this is color 6. And this definitely at a distance reads green, right? Very, very solidly green. And it is, but it has the different tones of the green in it. So from the side, you can see that you've got, your sort of soft spring green and then your dark green. And it even has a little bit of this is purple. Can you see that little bit of purple in there? Really pretty. It doesn't, other than that purple, it doesn't really have any additional colors. It's mostly just that green with the purple in it. But all different shades of green, which still, oh, it does have a little tiny speck of that pink. Can you see that? But all the different colors of that green from, almost a highlighter yellow green all the way to this sort of darkish green. So I think that's also beautiful. And I'm not much of a green girl, but I think that's really pretty. Um, okay, here is one. Now this is color 4. This is sort of a warm peachy pink. And this does have a lovely blend of shades in there. From the center, you can see that there's this little bit of yellow right here, and further in, just a smidge of green. And you've got this purple worked in there, and then that turquoise again. And then just a warm sort of coral color, I think is very pretty. Yeah, lots going on there, but the stuff that's going on doesn't go on for a long time, if that makes sense. Um, all right, and that colors BFF. So this is color 4, and this is color 11. Similar, but you can see that this is a much warmer pink. This is an Amy Briggs pink and me pink, right? Very kind of cool, and it has a little bit of the salmon peach tones in there, but generally it's tending much more uh, to a cooler purpley kind of tone, right? Got a little bit of that green in there, and a little purple, a little bit of blue, right? This is a gorgeous colorway. A little yellow in there, but again, the bumps don't last long. Here's a little bit of that turquoise. Let me turn it around this way so you can see maybe better, right? So pretty. I love the way the different colors come together in Noro and that little marl. So I'm writing my blog post for next week and I talk about all the different or did I no, I already did that this week. So that's what I was talking about. So you've got in Nora, you've got this kind of color shift where the colors move through the fabric. But because of the way it's spun, you have that little bit of marling in there. So like right there, can you see how the pink and the green are kind of twisted together like a barber pole? So Noro really kind of has it all. They have the marling, they have the long color repeat. The only thing they don't have is the gradient. I mean, variegated. So they're never going to do something that looks like a hand paint. At least they haven't in the 30, 40 years they've been in business. Um, so this one is color 11. This is the Amy Briggs and Ellen color. And continuing on that vein is color 5, which is really a beautiful purple. And you can see from the side, it's got that mainly purple, light and dark, but you see how we're getting some green in there. Very, very pretty. And some pinks and a little bit of kind of a dark there. That's kind of a charcoal color, which I think is often nice. Sometimes Noro will throw in a kind of a charcoal or something that's sort of muted to, I call it to take away the sweet. It cuts the sweetness of some of these very cool um, candy colors. So this is the purple one, and then you see it's got a little bit of this reddish pink in there. So Susie likes 2 and 4, right? Yes. Okay. Um, yes. So 2, and 4, right? The pink and the wait, yeah, 2 and 4. The pink, kind of this is more the peachy color, right? Susie likes the peachy color, and then this dark one. Okay, so then we have this color, and I think this is really um kind of unusual. Not unusual for Noro because they're always surprising us. Um, we have this color. So have a look at this as compared to this. Okay. They don't seem that different, but they really kind of are. So this is the color that I swatched, and you can see it's very intense. It's a blue, turquoise tending to green, whereas this one is kind of much paler, more an aqua tending to a little bit of purple. They're similar. They're definitely close, but this one is more intense, more saturated, and this one is much less saturated. Yes, Amelia says one looks stone washed compared to the other. Yeah, and this has the same. This one is color 8, and it has the same alternate colors as the one that I am swatching, which is color 2, but it's just paler, you know? So a lot of times, you wonder, well, why would you do that? This, I think, is more wearable for some people. So for those of us who are maybe springs and summers, this would be more wearable than this, which would be more of a I see this as maybe spring autumn. It's just more intense. Somebody who knows more about color theory and all of that. But if you do tend to like those colors that are very, very saturated, um, this is probably a little bright for someone with my skin tone, and this one is, say, much better. But yeah, yeah. So I think the purple is really pretty. And then the very last one is this lovely kind of autumny tones. This is color 13, and this is a beautiful gold. Definitely not my palette, but I appreciate these tones very much. Rich greens in there, right? You can see the greens and the orange in there. Really, really pretty stuff. Are there anybody is anybody watching that can wear this tone with this gold? My daughter Katie can wear this. And she's blonde, but she has a lot of gold in her skin with that little bit of orange. Yeah, I think this is really pretty. Yeah, I don't think I would wear this next to my skin, but it is really, really nice, right? So, what is everybody's favorite color so far? Let me tell you one more time. So, this pink is 11. This is 12, 13, and then we have 4, 6, 2, 5, and 8. Not that it matters because when you look at them on the website, you'll be able to tell the difference right away. I did the pictures of these right when they came in because I was so very excited about it. So I also pulled some patterns that I thought were really, really cute. Whoops, wanted to share with you. And I was in a big rush to get here, so I didn't bring them up. But let me bring them now. Okay, I tagged them on Ravelry. Okay, my favorites. So one of the nice things about Noro is you can use like this is a worsted weight Noro, worsted slash say DK. You can use it in almost any of the patterns that are in, you know, in Noro, or in some of the yarns that have been discontinued, like Aya is a discontinued yarn, but it's still beautiful and it's still a lot of those patterns still absolutely work with it. So this up, I had it tagged Ohajiki. So all of the patterns that I'm going to show you tonight are in my Ravelry favorites, and they're tagged Ohajiki. So let me share this with you. Okay, so this is one, and one of the things I thought was really fun that I wanted to kind of talk about tonight a little bit was imagining imagining yarns or imagining projects that we love in Noro when I mean, how do we think about that? How do we envision something in a yarn that's so very different? Now, this is a beautiful pattern. You've all seen it, I'm sure, by Heidi Kermeyer. It's a lovely top-down raglan sweater. I love Heidi Kermeyer's designs with this pretty little eyelet. But, looking at that, you would never really think, oh my goodness, I'll do that in Noro, right? But someone did, and I thought it looked amazing. So here is her. She did it in, I think, in a kari, and I think it would probably be even nicer in Ohajiki because it would have the same drape that the original was intended to have. But look how pretty that is in Noro. And I just wanted to ask, do you ever find that you have a hard time envisioning something that's not designed for Noro, worked in Noro? Tell me in the chat if that's something that you find. And let me answer Susan's question. The magazine pics look much darker. Are they using filters? I don't Stop. I don't know that they're using filters so much as possibly, showing on my screen. Um, let's look at the pictures in the magazine. I know that they often color correct in the magazine. Um, but that's a really good question. Let me bring up my website and share that so you can see how I took the pictures, because I also color correct when I'm putting my stuff out there, because the photograph doesn't always capture the image as well as it might. It just doesn't. Let's see. Ohajiki. Yeah, let me share this. All right. So this is Noro Ohajiki, and you can see it on my site. Does that color look the same to you as it does when you look at it through the camera? Because these pictures that I have on the website are really very, very accurate. Because when I take the pictures and then I put them up there, I definitely color correct so that they look on screen the way they look to my eye in real life. So anyway, Susan, I'm interested in whether it looks as dark like on the camera here. So that's the purple, there's the green, that's the darker. Yeah. So I didn't particularly notice them being that much darker. Yeah, I think Susan says that the website photos than the video. Yeah, I think it's really more about the video and the camera here showing a little bit differently than I think the magazine is probably more true to color, and the pictures on my website are more true to color. This, and maybe even when you get really close to it. Anyway, it's hard to know, but do know that I make a big effort to make sure those colors look right when they're on the website. So yeah, so I think it's hard to visualize um, patterns that are not designed or knitted in Noro. So I did pull a few of these that I thought were really fun, in addition to the ones that I had for that we're going to go through when we look through the magazine. Um, yeah. Okay, so this is another one. This is a bay pullover, which is one of those that was very popular. She did this in a kari with a kid mohair, which you could absolutely do. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's probably not something that screams out for Noro, right? Oh, you can't see it because you're not seeing me. Okay, sorry. Let me go back here. Okay, so this is the bay pullover that she did in a kari and carried with a strand of some kind of lace weight mohair. You're still not seeing me, are you? Whoops, sorry. Stop share. I'm going to share a different picture. There. Okay. Sorry. Okay. This is, as I said, this is the bay pullover that was worked in Noro Akari plus a strand of kid mohair. And that pattern, as I said, is probably not something that you look at and it screams out Noro. Oh, knit me in Noro. But I think it looks gorgeous in Noro. Um, So how do we kind of how do we get past the idea that, oh, it's shown in a solid? How do I show that in not a solid? How do I do that in Noro? And one of the things that's sort of interesting is to kind of go through and see what people have knitted in Noro. Now, here's another example. This is a very popular pattern, the Cumulus blouse by Petite Knit. Everybody has seen this. Um, and there it is in Noro, and I think it looks amazing. Now, one thing to remember when you are trying to sort of visualize something that's not worked in Noro is to remember that your striping is going to be slightly different when the width of the fabric is different. So Cumulus blouse is knit in the round, and you can see that the stripes at the body are narrower than the stripes up here where you're working just kind of back and forth. And I imagine she had to do a little bit of management on that to make those stripes match. But she did a nice job, and I think that looks really good. So let's look real quick at the designs that are knitted in Noro for this yarn. So this is Terry. This is Deborah Newton. And you can see how the stripes go, how you get this overall look of it being very, very dark turquoise, and then just a little bit of the alternate colors. I think she looks beautiful. And I love that they're using a model that isn't, a size extra, extra zero. I think she looks lovely in that. So that's a pretty one. Here's another one worked in that green. And we have a little bit of dropped stitch here, which I think looks super cute. I'm not sure what that is, whether that's a bind off or a pickup. We'll look at that next week when we go through the magazine. But that's how the green looks, all the different shades of green and just a tiny bit of that purple in there, looking really cute. I like it. I think that's really cute. And then here's another one worked in the darker, the one that I swatched. See how you can see the lace in there just fine. I don't think that the striping distracts from the color from the stitch pattern. You still see very clearly those are hearts. I don't think we're distracted, but this is one of those designs similar to the way Yumiko Alexander does, very oversized so that the extra fabric from the body creates the sleeve. And that's just a lovely, easy fitting garment. And then, of course, this is the cover design. And this really does have kind of that whole stripy thing going on. This is color 11, color 12, right? With a kind of an equal portion of all the different colors and that white being sort of frosted over all. So this is probably this sort of the most different of all of them. But this is a beautiful garment. Again, it's a lace, and I think the lace looks beautiful in the Noro. It doesn't get overwhelmed by the colors. And my point that I made in the newsletter is when you're working with something like Noro with a long color repeat, your eye is only looking at one color at a time. So although there are stripes of color, you're really only seeing the lace in the orange or the lace in the white or the lace in this charcoal or, so forth. So your eye isn't trying to bounce around and track all of the different colors. So your lace and your stitch work works just great. And then this, was enough to make me want to go and learn to crochet because I think this is precious. This is a beautiful bag in that sort of rich, earthy ochre kind of autumnal colors. So you can see how that works up. Crochet is perfect for a bag like this. It just looks so nice and it's not going to stretch out. It's going to be absolutely, perfect. So yeah, so we've kind of got a lot of bags going on in our mind for Noro and other yarns this season. So anyway, that is Ohajiki, the yarn, the gauge, the colors, the fiber characteristics, and just a kind of a teaser of some of the patterns that I think would be really pretty in it. Um, as I said, the yarn label says 16, is it 16 or 18? 18 to 20. I think it's 20 is about as loose as I personally would want to go, but I will let you know more when I block that this 17 to 4 inches and see how I feel about the fabric then. It is going to be very drapey, but it will be kind of bloomy, I think. So anyway, if you are interested, we do have the yarn in stock. It is beautiful. I've reordered the magazines. I ordered several packs. They only sent me one pack, and I understand some yarn stores didn't get any. We have sold out of what we had, but I reordered them and they should be there tomorrow. So if you are interested, keep an eye out on the website for the magazine. I think it's a really good magazine. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that next week, we are going to be going over the entirety of the magazine. We'll look at each garment and how it's constructed and the yarn that's used. And the week after that, we are going to have the trunk show in-house at the shop. And I'm going to enlist, like I always do, some of my favorite models to come and show you how the garments look on different people. So if you are local to the shop, and you want to be a model, let me know. I'm happy to have you. We're going to do the podcast from the shop. Um, and I think that's always good to see how the garments look on different people. And the other thing I want to tell you, again, if you are local to the shop, the trunk show is going to be there. So we'll have it there from, I think, the beginning of, or the middle of next week to the 19th or 20th. So it'll be in the shop for a good bit. And we have our event. So we have kind of a featured event where we know we'll have everything. And I have some Japanese snacks and you can come and try it on. So that'll be a very fun event. So if you're local and you would like to do that, that's on Facebook and you can see that and let me know if you're coming. So anyway, thank you for looking. I would be excited to hear which color is your favorite and which garment you like best, and whether you like it at this kind of loose drapey gauge or at a more structured gauge, because it is really terribly versatile. You could do all kinds of things with it. You could put this with a strand of Ito Sensai, which is their kid silk mohair, or a strand of Kid Silk Haze. Kid Silk Haze is a little heavier than Sensai, but yeah, and that would be a beautiful combination. Cotton looks so nice with a strand of kid mohair. So absolutely beautiful yarn, and I'm excited to make something with it. I haven't decided what that's going to be yet, but it's going to be something, and I'll let you know as soon as I do. So thank you guys again for your patience tonight with me and for sticking around and watching. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, keep knitting and create something beautiful. Good night.